right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Hermosa Beach's 2018 Surfers Walk of Fame induction ceremony. What a beautiful California day. I mean, a beautiful Hermosa Beach day. It doesn't get any better than this. Sun's out, weather's warm, and I hope some of you guys had an opportunity to paddle out because we had some fun surf this morning. A very rare treat considering, the struggles we had this winter, but it's all lining up for an amazing day, especially to induct some amazing people. I'd like to thank all those who made it out last night to the museum party and the movie premiere. It was a sold-out event. We had over 500 stoked surfers, you guys. Epic event. Thank you for everybody that showed up. The South Bay has its share of high-profile signature events. From everyone's favorite 4th of July Ironman, the AVP Hermosa Open of Volleyball, the International Lifeguard Competition, concerts on the beach, the Memorial Day and Labor Day Fiesta. But you know what? The most important one, the best one, is the Surfers Walk of Fame weekend. Because it's for you, the surfing community that has given their lives, spent all of their time to give this town the identity that makes it so attractive and influential worldwide. Thank you guys very much. Yay. This weekend, we celebrate our surfing culture, past, present, and future. This is not only the best event in Hermosa, but the best event in California. Nowhere else in the world have so many influential pioneers that developed their skills in such a small geographic area call this place their home. Surfers like Dewey Weber, Greg Knoll, Leroy Granis, and all you guys and girls that are inductees that are in the audience today. Thank you. Because without the history that each and every one of you wrote for us, from ditching class to go surf, charging giant waves, rescuing people from the water, and making the greatest commitment of all by prioritizing surfing in your lives, I promise you, the world would be a different place as we know it today if it wasn't for our inductees. Big round of applause for all of our inductees. Right now, it's my honor to introduce our Masters of Ceremony, John Joseph, 2004 Surfers Walk of Fame inductee, local legend, and a personal mentor of mine. John Joseph.
Thank you, Yanni. Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you all here. We have two former world champions in attendance here. We have Peter Townend and Jericho Poplar. Would you stand up, please? Two of the greatest of all time. Peter under the tent here, and Jericho is right over there, and Jerry with the flowers. Next, what I want to do is, you can go to Dodger Stadium, you can go to the Coliseum, watch the Raiders, the Dodgers, but it's sitting in the stands. You're not going to sit to Babe Ruth or Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle, but here you are. Could I have all the inductees, former inductees, please stand, and I'm going to introduce you one by one. You're going to be sitting next to a legend if you're in the stands out here. Please stand, all of you. I'll start over here, down in front, in the black shirt with the camera. It's Tiger Macon, Hermosa Beach's own. Next to him, Tiger is Jim Graham. Jim Graham, an inductee. Tiger came all the way from Hawaii on Thursday, and Jim just drove down from Colorado last night. So they've come the farthest of anyone here. And Peter came from China, it might be a little bit farther. Next to them is Henry Ford in a plaid shirt. In front of Henry in the black hat is John Whitney Guild. Mr. Mustache in the black Haggerty shirt, John Leninger. Yeah. In the Jacobs team shirt, Chris Bredesen. Next to him, John Baker, at 69 years old, was out on the water in a shortboard right before he took his seat. Unbelievable, John. Under the tarp in the print, Mr. Old Guy's Rule, Don Craig. Who's that? With the Vietnam hat, Pef Ike. Pef Ike under the white tent. Anybody on my left in the back there that I've missed so far? I can't see behind the tents. We have Derek Levy over here up front in the Hawaiian shirt. Next to him, Dennis Jarvis. Mark Levy in the back over there with the Australian bush hat on. Is that everybody on the... No, over here on my right. Let's see, who do we got? I see in the black t-shirt with the shades. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Mike Purpose. Anyone else in the back there that I'm missing? Is there anyone that I've left out? Any of our inductees? Okay, well, thank you guys. And again, we really appreciate you all for coming. Right now, we lost one of our great individuals on the pier this past winter. Warren Miller, photographer, skier, surfer. We'd like to have a moment of silence for Warren. He was just a terrific Hermosa Beach resident for probably 80 years. So please, everyone, just a moment of silence for Warren. Okay, thank you very much. And Warren, you will be missed. We know you're up there looking at us right now. All right, what we're going to do right now is we're going to have our first inductee come up, and that would be Kip Jerger, being presented by Mike Cunningham, former LA County lifeguard.
I have the honor of introducing one of this year's Hermosa Surfers Walk of Fame recipients. Kip Jerger, would you come up here, please? Kip and I have known each other since 1974. That's 44 years. He and I were co-workers as Los Angeles County lifeguards, but his surfing story began way before that. Kip was born to Deirdre and Wilbur Jerger on March 2nd, 1953. He grew up in the Portuguese Bend area of PV with siblings Tuzo, Tia, Kimmy, and Russ. He began surfing as a youngster and was on the local San Pedro Peninsula swim team as a young Grom. His surfing skills quickly blossomed. He would work along with Tuzo when Tuzo and he were repping Lucky Beer. They would travel up and down the coast surfing as they worked, and in 1971, Kip won what would be considered a high school CIF championship surf contest held at Redondo Breakwater. He took the lifeguard test in 1973 and passed through the training with flying colors. He ended up working the next 42 years with the county. Kip was awarded the very first Lifeguard Medal of Valor in 1981 for a rescue of a drowning fisherman at White's Point. This rescue was so severe that Kip had to be hospitalized along with the man he saved from entrapment in an underwater cave in 10-foot hurricane surf. Tuzo and Kip founded Kanoa Surfboards in 1974. Their first shop was on Deep Valley Drive in Rolling Hills. It was the first surfboard shop in Palos Verdes. The second was added in downtown Manhattan Beach. And that was soon thereafter. They had a very large mail order business from the new urethane wheel generated skateboard industry, and full-page Kanoa ads were in all of the surf magazines. They had great boards from the best local shapers. And we all thought Kanoa was some mystical Hawaiian term that Kip had derived from his trips to Hawaii. And he, to this day, still says it means free spirit. But business was good, and they sponsored many surfers and skaters. And some of these world-ranked surfers included Mike Benavides, Chris Barella, Terry Stevens, Chris Frohoff, Peter Townend, Alan Sarlo, Mark Price, Michael Thompson, Martin Potter, and, of course, Mike Purpose.
Yay!
And Kanoa had others like Mike Sherman, Michael Lurson, Nish Rogers, Steve Machin, Kai Suker, and the current Rip Curl USA president, Kelly Gibson. Kanoa also sponsored women champions like Liz Benavides, who was #2 ranked pro at the time, and Susie Rampy. Kanoa Surfing Team won the 1976 World Surf Team Championship, and in 1977, the Caton Pro Surfing World Team Challenge, with Kip getting the, quote, best tube of the contest, unquote, recognition in Surfer Magazine. Kanoa also innovated an industry-leading skate helmet design which pro skaters from all over wore at the time. It was lightweight, it had plenty of ventilation and reflector areas all over. Their skateboard team included world rank Lonnie Hiramoto, Kurt Cordum, Howard Hood, Tony Giton, and Chris Chappett. One winter in Hawaii's North Shore, there was a couple of South African pros who'd been selling surf trunks out of their suitcases to the other pros. The suits were really popular, they were sewn in South Africa, and they had vibrant patterns and colors. But the guys, Michael Thompson and Mark Price, needed a good name for their fledgling company. And Kip and Michael were sitting on a couch at Randy Rarick's house, watching TV and waiting for the wind to change, when they saw a Gillette commercial where a guy cuts his chin with a dull razor and the word "gotcha" came on the screen. Kip screamed to Michael, "Gotcha! That's the name for your company, Gotcha!" Well, the wind really did change, and Gotcha became one of the leading surf clothing manufacturers in the world shortly thereafter. Kip taught kids about the ocean in the junior guard program for several years. He was selected into the county's inner city ocean education program for several years, and he began a lifelong pursuit of coaching, mentoring, and teaching surf lessons to some kind or another. And he began the Kanoa Aquatics and started what is now known as the Surf Camp. This was believed to be one of the first in the Los Angeles area. He taught surfing to thousands of youngsters, as well as disadvantaged kids, inner city kids, and he wrote the safety plans for their protection, and his business model was copied all over. He did this for 30 plus years. Kip voluntarily taught yearly classes to the Los Angeles Braille Institute, and he was featured on all the major news channels when he did. The smiles in those kids' faces during their first ride in the ocean was priceless. Kip was never shy about appearing in the media. He made many commercials and did print ads over the years, and for a time Kip had a local surf show on the public access channel for Adelphia Cable. He introduced and chatted with many local surfers and showed clips of them in action. He produced, directed, and starred in it, and the show was very popular. Kip also appeared as a water double or a stuntman on the Baywatch television show many times, and he was in several surf movies like Scott Dietrich's Riders on the Storm. Kip was at a television shoot in Costa Rica, and he was working as a stunt double for an American television show when he was severely injured. He was pitched on a large wave, and his board nearly cut off his ring finger. It cut his skull, and it fractured his elbow. In true Kip fashion, and after surgery to remove his finger, one of the other stuntmen, Steve Christian, said, "Kip told me he felt lighter, but he couldn't put his finger on it." When the surf got huge, Kip would be on it. He was featured in Surfer magazine many times riding big waves. If the surf was too big at the beaches, Kip would go to PV and surf the hill. But Kip was not really considered a PV local or a quote-unquote bay boy. And when we went up there to check the surf on the really big days, we'd always see his car parked right at the top at the trail at the indicator. And usually his tires were flattened like ours. Kip pioneered guided surf trips for clients going to Bali, Indonesia, and he provided valuable knowledge on the customs, the geography, and the surf spots. And Bali can be very dangerous. It has razor-sharp coral, there's malaria, there's sea snakes, and there's these huge perfect waves. But his guidance allowed his clients to have a safe and enjoyable time, and they rode these unbelievable Indonesian waves in exotic places, and they got to go home with lifetimes of memories. In the sport of paddleboarding, Kip was a champion and an innovator as well. He went to South Africa in 1981 as a representative of the United States Lifesaving Association. He was on the 1983 Los Angeles County World Interclub Championship team as a paddler. And at the U.S. Lifesaving Championships, Kip was on the national champion LA County paddleboard relay team in 1986 in Galveston, Texas as well. Innovating with a new technique involving electric hot knives and styrofoam blanks. With Kevlar and epoxy, Kip designed open paddleboards for competition. He won the Catalina Classic Paddleboard Races Unlimited Division in 1982. He was the first to use Kevlar and epoxy on paddleboard construction and resurrected a tiller and rudder design for that unlimited board. This design is still used by today's top racers. And always the enterpriser, Kip now has begun a mobile surf camp format. His company, freespiritsurfla.com, will pick up clients, take them on an all-day surf trip to the best breaking spot for the day, and if people need coaching, he'll provide it. In the end of the day, he drops them off at home. It's a great idea and a fun way to go surfing every day, because surfing is Kip's life, and he still lives the Kanoa free spirit life. This honor and recognition on the 2018 Hermosa Beach Surfers Walk of Fame is tremendous. I am extremely honored and proud to present and introduce Kip Jerger for this year's Hermosa Beach Surfers Walk of Fame. Congratulations, Kip.
Sir. Technical difficulties here. Hi, everybody. Glad to see you and glad to see all my friends that came today. My beautiful girlfriend, could you raise your hand? Diana Holt and her beautiful children next to her. Thanks for coming. My mom and my father, can you raise your hand? They're right over there. There's Mom and Dad. My sister Tia and my brother Tuzo and Russie. Thanks everybody for coming. Oh, and Lars and his beautiful young daughter sitting right there with the beautiful glasses. Raise your hand, sweetie. Come on. Yay! Right on. It's great to see all my friends here. John Baker, John Joseph, Alvin Sarlo. There's just so many of you out there. I'd like to name everybody, but it would just take so long. I don't want to forget Michael Lurson. And Michael, you're next. So I'm going to get on with this. Hello. That's a good start. I want to thank everybody for coming today and express my gratitude to the board of directors in honoring me with this special award and Hermosa Beach. And thank Mike Cunningham for speaking for me today. Mike and I have served and competed for and lifeguarded together for 44 years, as he said earlier. He's a world body surfing champion and a grand master champion, which means you compete with all the age groups several times over. So he's just an amazing guy, retired lifeguard and a dear friend. And his support means a lot to me.
Back in the game, yeah.
Today is a great day for me. So, I can't tell you. I was so nervous up here I couldn't even put my script in my pocket. Having my family and friends and loved ones together all in one spot, recognizing me for this honor. It is also touching to see all the faces of my longtime friends and surfing buddies who are all here in one location. The feelings of recognition is truly incredible. They said it takes a village. For me, it took a city and a county as well. I needed extra help. Foremost, it took the love and support of my family to get me where I am today as a lifeguard and a surfer. I owe a lot to my big brother, Tuzo. Tuzo, where are you? Raise your hand, buddy. There he is, right there. Tuz, thanks, buddy. The heavy hand raiser, you got about this high. Yeah, Tuzo, let's give my brother a big hand. He first took me out surfing and showed me the magic of standing on a board and riding the waves and the pitfalls of getting wiped out. Since then, I have had numerous surfing experiences that will remain with me forever. One I can remember was a great surf trip to the North Shore with Mike Purpose and Alan Sarlo. Did we have fun? I won't say anymore. One of those experiences was when I was teaching a group of children how to surf. They were all from LA County, Los Angeles Braille Institute for the Blind. At the end of the surfing lesson, one little 12-year-old girl was interviewed on television and asked what it felt like to surf. And she replied, "I was on the surfboard riding a wave with Kip behind me when he asked me to stand up. It was amazing. The wind in my hair and the water rushing at my feet. When I landed on the shore, I felt so incredible that I forgot I was blind."
Whoa.
As a surfer teaching others what surfing is like, it doesn't get any better than that. At this point in my life, having surfed for so many years, I find myself comparing surfing to life's challenges. There are the moments of battling the tides and currents and breaking through the waves to calm waters. These are metaphors to life, and the ocean has inspired me to teach others the wonders of surfing and benefits of being in the water. Thank you, Phil. My best friend Phil here clapping. Thanks, buddy. Good to see you. He flew all the way out from Texas. You, Phil Camera. To me, the ocean offers so many healing benefits for those of all ages. It's free, it's beautiful, and it's wondrous. There's nothing like spending time at the beach and healing and heading home with the sand between your toes, the smell of salt water on your skin, and feeling happily exhausted from being in the sun and having immersed your body in the ocean. So at the end of the day, when I think of a little girl who forgot that she was blind for a few minutes while surfing, it brings a tear to my eye, and I'm so happy that that happened. My life as a surfer, all these years, couldn't get any better than that. You know, in the surfing world, they say the best surfer out there is the one having the most fun. Let's continue to have fun. And let's band together to clean up Mother Ocean, the source of happiness for everyone. In conclusion, I'm extremely humbled to receive this award today in such great company. There are thousands of words floating around in my head and in my mind that I can't describe how I feel right now. But being a surfer, as my surfing buddies will attest to, my brain is somewhat waterlogged, so this short speech will have to do. There's my brother timing me again. That's so funny. Thank you, Tuzo. I love you, buddy. Glad you brought your stopwatch. I just want to say, everybody, again, thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. And peace to all of you.
You notice the timer ran out of sand. I was remiss. There was two individuals that were inducted the past couple years that I failed to mention. I didn't see them in the crowd, but I did have breakfast with them. Chris Frohoff and John Mcfarlane. I don't know if you're in the area. I know you were at breakfast with all of us. Anyway, I apologize for missing you if I did during the induction. Next, we have Scott Daley. Oh, and Mary Lou Drummy is here. I'm sorry. Where's Mary Lou? Right, okay, right there under the tent. Mary Lou Drummy. There she is. And we also have Joyce Hoffman here, another world champion. Joyce Hoffman, all right. California Golden Girls are well represented today with Candy. Next, we have Scott Daley going to come up, and presenting him is someone, I never thought I would say this, but there's someone that is fast approaching Mike Purpose. He's the most photographed surfer ever from the South Bay, and that is Alex Gray. Will be presenting Scott Daley. Scott, come on up. First of all, Yanni has a quick story that he wants to pass on to y'all.
Super sorry, but I gotta take this opportunity to break decorum and share a story on how Scott Daley changed my life. I remember the first time I met Scott. Dennis Jarvis set up a meeting for us to discuss South Bay marketing ideas for Body Glove. I was a Grom studying public relations and marketing at Long Beach State, working at Spider, judging high school contests, and putting on punk shows at night. When I met Scott, I swear I probably talked like an hour and a half non-stop about all kinds of community outreach strategies, and I'm sure Alex's name came up several times. He's been an influencer since day one. And in hindsight, I'm 99% sure that Scott had either already implemented these ideas or came up with them himself. But I'll never forget how he listened to me with respect, dignity, professionalism, genuine enthusiasm, and kindness. As a kid coming up in the surf industry, you rarely get that quality of attention from high-level established guys like Scott. I'll never forget that meeting. Thank you for giving me that much-needed confidence that I needed to choose the surfing industry as my career. Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Gray.
Hello, everybody. First, I'd like to say, being a younger generation, it's so cool to see how all of you support each other. Anytime I come to one of these events, it's past inductees, cheering on the current ones, and it's a really fun example for down the line generations to see how you guys still support each other further on in life. So thanks for being that example for us. To be chosen as Scott Daley's introducer, however you want to say it, at 30 years younger than him, I get a kick out of that because it is funny, but at the same time, it shows you who Scott Daley is. And as Yanni said, the amount of generations that are affected by him. I first met Scott at 11 years old. Thanks to the Maestros, they introduced me to him at Body Glove. We walked in the office and Scott looked really sunburned. He'd probably been surfing all day, a little late to work. Hey, nice to meet you, Alex. Stoked to have you aboard. Here's a wetsuit. And I'm like, oh, rad. And he looks at me and gives me this kind of stare and goes, I'm gonna need that back. And I was like, whoa. Like, okay. Kind of walked down there a little confused. But shortly after, there was a movie called The North Shore. And my friends and I revered that movie, watched it every night, and all of a sudden there was Scott Daley, the California kid, running out to Pipeline. And we're like, oh my God, we just met that guy, Scott Daley. So this infatuation began with the first famous person I had ever met in the surf industry, which was Scott Daley, the guy whose wetsuit I lost a couple days after. When you get into the depth of who Scott is as a character, I think you truly find it down at an NSSA event under the Body Glove tent at an NSSA West Coast Championship where it's closing out past rubies. As a 12-year-old kid, you are just scared to death. And as an adult, you're probably going, why are we doing this? And it's when I realized that there should be something called the Scott Daley Symphony. And Beethoven should come on, and when he puts a contest jersey on, it is nothing short of this genius, beautiful thing that happens. I've never ever seen anybody more cool, calm, collected, focused, and pissed off when they put a contest jersey on. This day at Huntington, I was 12 years old, and I watched him walk down with this demeanor that it carried the world. He paddled out, and I swear he didn't even get his hair wet. He probably caught every wave, hassled every one of you, for sure PT. And he won. But when he came in, he carried the same exact demeanor. And he walked up to me, and I'm sure saw how scared I was, and said, hey, if you think you're gonna lose, you are going to lose. And then I met the bro at that moment. And the bro goes like this. He said, "Bro, you ever think of the color black?" And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Man, when I'm under those pilings and my heart's racing, I'm freaking out, I look down at my stringer, bro, and I think black, because black is nothing. And then I can go and do anything I want, bro. It's all in your head. Get out of your head, okay? You'll do good, kid." And I'm like, oh my God. I met the side of Scott Daley that is this intellect that knows himself very well, but Scott has always been somebody who challenges himself. And I think it's where he found respect in Hawaii. I think it's where he found respect amongst his Australian bronze Aussie peers. He is a straight up guy who will tell you to your face how he feels and how he thinks you should be doing it a little bit better. And I've always enjoyed Scott because he's challenged me over the years to overcome adversity, to be myself doing it, but more than anything to help others along the way. And I know that many of us in here have been given a gift from Scott Daley. I get one every week. And to have him as a boss and to have him as a mentor, it really doesn't get any better. The one thing that I found that took Scott off of his wheels and found his soft spot was his kids. And Grayson and Jack, I hope you guys know how much he loves you guys. He talks about you all the time, and it is the one thing where I see him crumble. It takes him off of that high platform, and it's just been very, very fun to see your influence on Scott. And to end it, there's one day in particular that stands out. We got a boat together. Dive and Surf certified us as scuba divers, and Scott went from the bro to the Commodore at that point, and he also became a MacGyver. The first day we went down to the boat, and it looked like it was in half. And Scott's like, "I've fixed the boat, bros. We're going out tomorrow." And all of us look at the boat. We're like, "Oh my God, I think you broke it." And sure enough, with some duct tape and some wrenches and some resin and surfboard foam, the guy created something for our boat and fixed our boat, and it worked. He wasn't joking. So we wake up at 3 in the morning, we jump on the freeway, and as we're driving, we get up the Ventura. Out of nowhere, there's this thump and this super loud drag and rust coming out the back of the car. And we've dropped the anchor off the bow of the boat in the middle of the freeway. And Scott's like, "Oh, bro!" It pulls over on the side of the road, and he's laughing, and I'm sitting there freaking out. He runs back, and I'm looking at him in the side mirror, and he's just pulling in this rope for 5 minutes, dragging an anchor across the center of the freeway, but there's no one there. It's 4 in the morning. He comes back in the car in true Scott fashion. He's like, "Oh, bro, that was gnarly." And I'm like, "We could have killed someone." He's like, "You know what, Alex?" And he's got, at this point, he had a necklace. He called it his little juju necklace. He rubs his necklace and goes, "Everything happens for a reason, bro. We're gonna get so barreled today." So we do. We get out there and we have an all-time session. And that night, Scott, in true form, and probably back to your 80s days, is still celebrating. And due to a little extra celebration, he goes, "Bro, that was the best day ever. We're going to the moon." And I look at him, and it's the flattest, calmest water ever. And he steps up out of the boat, and somehow there's this miraculous big wave that hits the boat, which wasn't there. And on our bimini, we had buttons for the canvas to pop onto to keep us dry. And he headbutts it, finds a button perfectly. There's this ting! And he turns around and his head is blasted open. He's bleeding down the face. He's like, "Bro, I'm on the moon." Scott, I want to say thank you for the friendship. You have been there for me personally at times that I did need to be put in my place, and you've also been there personally at times I needed to be lifted up. You've been there for our family. I know I don't go alone in saying this, that you really do give, and the fact that you're my mentor, one of my favorite surfers, you've done it. You lived the dream. You're a pro surfer. You ran the surf industry, and now you have a beautiful family being inducted into what I would say every checkbox that this Hall of Fame is. So thank you for continuing to inspire someone 30 years younger than you, and I hope you go to the moon many more times.
Wow. Thank you so much.
47, 48. Those are champs.
Alex left out the part that we were going to the moon and the waves were incredible. And the next day the waves were incredible again. And the surf spot, it's a sand wave, and you surf so long during the day, and the next day we got out there really early, like dark. And I'm walking up the beach and I'm wondering why I have a rash on my legs and my butt. And it's because we surf so much at this spot all day the day before and the next morning that sand gets penetrated through your wetsuit, and it's the ultimate exfoliation experience, if you know what I mean. This is awesome. That was awesome, Alex. Thank you. For me, this is a real privilege. I'd like to thank John Joseph and Jani. Actually, John talked to me about this about 5 years ago and said, Scott, I think this is coming your way pretty soon. So this year, Greg Browning sent a letter in on my behalf, and I got nominated. So I want to say thank you to the Hermosa Beach Walk of Fame committee. This is a true honor. To achieve something on your own is great. For me, just like Kip was just talking about, it took a community. And so I'm going to say thanks to some of the people that helped me along the way. When I first started surfing, just to carry my board was a Greg Knoll 9.6 that I bought from my girlfriend's brother for $25 when I was 9 years old. It took my mom, my sister, and me to carry it to the beach. So right there was part of the community that helped me get to my start. Also, I have to say thank you to my mom. It was her who moved to Manhattan Beach, and if she didn't move to Manhattan Beach, I wouldn't be up here today. So it's a true acknowledgement to her, even though she moved away when I was 11, which I wasn't really happy about. I always did better when there was a mentor or a coach. I was surfing at the Sun-Kissed Pro in 1979 at Malibu, and Mike Purpose and all the pros were there, and they were there from Australia and everywhere. But that particular day, I caught some good waves, and Mike Purpose went out of his way to say, "Nice surfing, Scott," and it meant a lot to me. It actually helped me to feel like I was better, and I didn't know that I had that ability, and it gave me that confidence. So I say thank you to Mike Purpose right there. Thank you, Mike. I made the quarterfinals of that event, and that kind of paved the way for me to be asked by some other people to participate. And so Ben Ipa came and talked to me after the Sun-Kissed Pro and said, "Hey, I want you to come to Hawaii." And I said, okay. So I packed up my stuff and in the winter went to Hawaii and went to surf for the pro class trials, and Ben picked me up at the airport. He didn't drop me off. He took me straight to Sunset Beach where the waves were 10 to 15 feet. And I was scared shitless. But we paddled out. I caught 2 waves, and that was the beginning of me understanding what it meant to surf Hawaii. And so to Ben Ipa, I say thank you. The following year, I hung out with PT and Ian Cairns on the North Shore. The biggest day of the trip, I hid out from Ian, who would make me surf no matter what. I got hell for that, for not surfing that day that night. I told him it was a ear infection. It was part of their responsibility to kick my ass to surf big waves while I was in Hawaii. So that was kind of the agreement that I went there on. But so I say thank you to PT and Ian for mentoring me on those Hawaiian trips. Most of you know I worked at Body Glove for most of my life. I have a heartfelt thank you to Bob and Bill Maestro. Bob and Bill were 2 great legends. They are inducted in the Hermosa Walk of Fame as well. For some reason, I gravitated towards Bill. He used to call me old number 13 because I had a lot of losses in the quarterfinals, and that's where you would get 13. But thank you to Bob and Bill for giving me the job at Body Glove. That was awesome. To the second generation, Robbie, Randy, Ronnie, Billy, what a ride it has been. Body Glove, 32 years of my life. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Also, along with that, Russ Lesser as the president and Charlotte Lesser always went out of their way to lend a helping hand. So I wanted to say thank you to Russ and Charlotte. I love surfing. I love the ocean. I have made my life around it. I'm a surfer, a scuba diver, a certified boat captain, a fisherman, licensed yacht salesman, sandcastle maker. You know what I'm saying. Anything I can do to be at the water or at the beach. When I gave up pro surfing in 1992, Russ Leslie, the president of Body Glove, asked me to do some volunteer work for an organization. I chose SEMA, the Surf Industry Manufacturers Association. I became a board of director, and I did that for about 10 years. My goal, along with PT, Bill Sharp, and some other board members, were focused on the sport of surfing. How do we fix it to show a surfer a career path from novice to pro or to success? We worked on a new national governing body. Our goal was to have the USA Surf Team win world championship events. Also to get a new NGB recognized by the US Olympic Committee, with the ultimate goal of the sport of surfing being in the Olympics. Yeah! Many people took on this goal, and it would have never been achieved without Reef Sandals founder Fernando Aguirre. I am proud to have been part of this journey, and I want to thank Fernando and PT for their perseverance and for getting surfing into the Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. Thank you. You know, I'm proud to live here in the South Bay, and I think for most of us, we can all give a round of applause to the South Bay because it's such a great place. I love it here. And, you know, it gets reminded, Alex talked about my two sons, Jack and Grayson. Jack will look at me, he'll be looking at the ocean, and he'll stop, and he'll turn around and say to me on numerous occasions, "Dad, we're lucky to live here." And I always say back to him, "We're lucky to live here. You're right." And so to that, and for my son's acknowledgement that we're lucky to live here, it's to persevere and continue to do that. I agree, it's a great place. After all, my youngest son, Grayson, started his brand here in the South Bay, Daily Shape. So you see the hat I'm wearing, that's my son's brand, and he's sitting right here in the front row. And he's 15, and he's already shaped 16 surfboards. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'll finish this up pretty quick. To the surfers I surf with, thank you for giving me a wave. It is so fun. I will be out there, and Derek Levy will paddle out with a big smile, ask me if I'm going on the next one. Randy Maestro, we're always out the back at the break wall, taking turns. Out at Malibu, I'm surfing third point and yelling down to Alan at first point, "Zarl!" And he's yelling back up, "Dales!" And we're smiling and laughing at each other the whole time. What a great sport. I love it. I love the community of surfers. It does not matter where I surf in the world, I run into friends everywhere. It is a small world of surfers. They love the ocean and they love the planet. They're good for Earth. To my friends present and departed, a lot of you leave the planet too early. It is important to be and stay healthy. We lost Willie Morris last week and Vince Collier the months before. My quest for my friends, please stay healthy. See your doctor at least twice a year. If you don't have a doctor, see mine, Dr. Bradley Smith on Avenue C at Ocean Medical. He's a great guy, and he'll take good care of you. If I miss acknowledging anyone, thank you to you too. To my girlfriend who's in the front row, Kelly Brown, thank you for helping me on this journey. And thank you to my family and my extended family, my uncle for coming down from San Luis Obispo. As Ellen DeGeneres says, thank you, be kind to one another.
Thank you, Scott. I'm so happy that we were elected another woman this year. We have Candice Woodward coming up, and to present her is Patty Panecha. Patty is one of the original founders of the International Professional Surfing Association in '76, and was one of the first women on that tour. She started it with Fred Hemmings and Randy Rarick. She will be presenting Candy. I do want to make a comment. I've been coming to this pier area since right after World War II with my family, and have lived here my entire life. And I don't think I've ever seen a greater collection of female surfers than we have here today. We're talking about Jericho Popper, Joyce Hoffman, Mary Lou Drumming, Shannon Aikman, the two that are coming up right now. It's amazing. And looking at who's been nominated, we're going to have more of these year after year. And we're so happy to see that. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Patty up here, please. Patty. She's also a law professor at Pepperdine University.
Hello, everybody. I am honored that Candy has asked me to introduce her to you today. I have had the pleasure of knowing her for more than 40 years. We met at a pro surf contest in New York, in the Hamptons on Long Island, and it has been my privilege to have remained friends with her ever since. I'd like to share a little bit with you today about Candy's surfing and background. She was only one of a handful of women surfers riding waves in the South Bay during the late 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and even now. And she is well known as an accomplished and stylish surfer, and according to Surfer magazine, one of the original soul surfers. And early on, Candy represented a new element of growing surf culture, women who could, and this is a quote, keep up with and even outsurf the guys in the lineup. Candy was on the cover of Surfer magazine in 1981 and in Surfer magazine several other times. She has been featured in the South Bay magazine, Pacific Line's Breakthrough, the Orange County Register, the Los Angeles Times, and more. She was sponsored by Body Glove Wetsuits, Offshore Sportswear, Sentinella Hospital, so many, Infinity Surfboards, just to name a few. In 1980, you may remember, she starred in two very popular TV commercials for RCA Color Track Television, surfing. The commercials of her surfing were shot by George Greeno and produced by the highly respected Leo Burnett Advertising Agency. And Color Track also ran print ads of Candy surfing in most major magazines, Life, Time, Newsweek, Reader's Digest, all of them. She was also selected to be photographed by one of the most renowned fashion and sports photographers of the time, Tony Duffy. Duffy was a British photographer who founded the All Sport Agency, and he was operating on an international scale with the world's elite athletes, and he chose Candy to work with. And as a result, photos of her surfing and on the beach here in the South Bay began to be published worldwide in a large variety of magazines, not only sports, but also beauty, fitness, general interest, everything. And not only in the US, but also throughout Europe and in Asia. Okay, here's something you don't know about Candy. In 1979, South Bay magazine named her as one of South Bay's top 5 most eligible bachelorettes. She She's also been featured in surf-related books, including Girl and Mcfarlane, and she's often been interviewed by local television stations. And she's been featured in museum exhibits at the Huntington Beach International Surfing Museum and at the Surfing Heritage and Culture Center in San Clemente. And 2 years ago, she became the first woman pro surfer to be inducted into the Haggerty Surf Club. Represent, huh? Candy was also a member of the renowned California Golden Girls, a group of professional women surfers who came together in the late 70s to promote women's surfing in order to gain sponsorship and to advance awareness of women surfers. And many of them are here today. Candy became very busy during the 1980s, getting herself through college and graduate school, then initially working as a physical therapist, and now as a highly respected ergonomic consultant, running her own company and also inventing, patenting, and marketing several ergonomic items for the workplace that help prevent injuries and protect employees by affecting their posture and their overall health. That's pretty amazing. But during those education years, she did make time to compete in some of the contests and always did extraordinarily well. She surfed in several WISA contests, including the Malibu event in 1977, where she took third place right after Margot Oberg and Lynn Boyer, beating out every other major pro at the time. She won WISA's local San Diego contest and took third in their offshore women's pro, and she won the title of WISA's California State Champion in 1980. Bravo, Candy. Candy was also one of the first female surfers to surf Tavarua Cloud Break prior to the opening of the surf camp there. And then she went again after the surf camp was opened in 1984. She often returned there. But what she won't go out of her way to tell you is that during that time she traveled to Tavarua. She traveled with Mark Doc Reniger and the Surfers Medical Association to provide care for local villagers. Candy has always been a thoughtful and caring person, in addition to being one of the best surfers I know, even today. Hermosa Beach, you have done well in choosing her to be on your Surfers Walk of Fame. And it is my honor to present to you and to congratulate Candy Woodward.
Feeling the love. Thank you so much. Thanks, Patty, and thanks, John Joseph, for, gosh, Patty, I'm going to take you with me everywhere. She could just chat up everybody about how great I am, and then I'll just smile and drink. So I really want to thank you for being here on your busy weekends, making the effort. I know some of you drove pretty far to get here, and it is much appreciated. This induction process has really got me thinking about my childhood, my early years as a little Grom surfer girl, and how impactful surfing has been on my life. I keep having this memory of being at Rat Beach, sitting around a smoky fire when I was about 14 years old, huddled in there with the boys, trying to get warm after an early morning surf session. And then I imagine one of them saying to me, Candy, someday you will be honored for being an accomplished female surfer. And then I reply, sure. And someday there's going to be a giant pool in the middle of California with perfect waves. Ironic, isn't it? They've both come true. And it just shows how exciting life is and what is to be out there for us in the future. Well, another thing that I think is incredible, I can't get over, is that I'm going to be immortalized in concrete at the Huntington Pier. Woohoo! Never thought that one was coming either. Thank you so much to the beautiful city of Hermosa Beach, the original surf city. For keeping our rich surfing heritage alive. It's so important, and you're doing a fabulous job at it. Commissioner Lange, Lisa Nichols, all the hard-working staff and volunteers that have given their heart, their soul, their enthusiasm to make this a great and memorable surfing event for the city. Really, really happy about it. I'm also thrilled to share the stage with my contemporaries, Scott Daley, woohoo, and the one and only Kip Jerger. Now, we all used to surf together, and we ran in the same circles, and but I haven't seen these guys in years. And it's really like old home week. And when I saw that they were the nominees, or the inductees, I have to say, I was really, really excited about it. So congratulations, you guys. Now, I can't forget... Oh, boy. I'm never, ever going to live this down. Never, ever, ever. I was going to say... We're going to talk about this in a little bit, okay? For those of you who didn't see what they held up. I have to thank my late father, Hoke Woodward, because when I was a young girl and I told him that I wanted to learn how to surf, he flatly said to me, "You can't surf. Surfing's for boys. It's not for girls." Come on, girls in the audience. Okay? So you're probably thinking, well, then what happened? Well, of course, I did what any young, headstrong little girl would do, especially if you know anyone that has young, headstrong little girls. I nagged him, and I wore him down. And I have to say, it took some time, but once I did, there was no turning back. So that's how it all got started. No wetsuits, no lessons, no leashes, just a very strong, unstoppable stoke. And I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you. We'll explain that in a minute. Hang on. I was blessed in my early years to live above the Bluff Cove in Palos Verdes. Our house was literally on the cliff. In fact, the house is no longer there because it just all kind of went. But it was the dream home built by architect and builder Thule Clark, who was one of the original Haggerty Surf Club, or not Haggerty's, I'm sorry, Palos Verdes Surf Club members. He is also an honorary member of the Hermosa Beach Surfer Walk of Fame, if you've ever heard of Thule Clark. So our house was right on the cliff. Our backyard had a fence, a chain link fence. I would go out there all the time, peer through the fence to look at the surfers riding at Middles and Little Reef and occasionally ski jump. I loved what I saw. They were having so much fun. And it also brought to me to life everything that was going on at that time. We had Surf's Up on TV. We had Gidget. We had The Endless Summer. We had music from the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean. You all know that they are from the South Bay. And this this is Surf City. I also ended up seeing a fabulous, I'm a kid, and I see a commercial come on. It was a public service announcement by the American Lung Association to stop smoking. And you know who starred in it? It was a young Joyce Hoffman, just playfully ripping on these waves, looking so healthy. And I saw that, and I'm not going to smoke, and I want to be just like her. When I was about 11 years old is when I first tried surfing. My neighbor down the street, Kit Burnell, a gal, not a guy, we happened to find an old waterlogged 10-foot board in the bushes. Belonged to a man down the street from us at the Cove. He was a surfer, and he just stashed the boards in the bushes when he was done with them. So he said we could use one, and Kit and I don't know, what were we, 11 years old? We were so excited to surf, we'd carry it down to Rat Beach, one of us hanging onto the nose, the other on the tail, and we just trekked down there, exhausted, but we got there, got back, and boy were we motivated, because that thing must weigh at least 40 pounds. After a while, my dad realized that my surfing obsession wasn't going away. He bought me a surfboard. It was an 8.6 Lyman. I think Lyman was from Redondo Beach. So he got me the board, and that was considered a short board for the early 60s and mid 60s. It was a short board, and I was about 4'10". I'll never forget being with my dad and my brother driving down the 110 freeway, and the board was in the trunk. Honestly, I don't remember where we were going. But all of a sudden, the board ejected out of the trunk and started skittering down the middle lane at about 50 miles an hour. Now, of course, my dad pulls over, and he's not going to say to me, "Candy, go get your board." He turns to my brother Mark and says, "Mark, go get Candy's board." So poor Mark, fortunately the traffic was light. He scurried out there, grabbed that thing, had to drag it back in, and they both made it back to the shoulder unscathed. Happy ending. In 1968, I fell in love with the Weber Australia surfboard. It was the first in a series of transition boards between longboards and shortboards. It was a 6'9", super maneuverable, really light and easy to carry, which was a huge plus. And I was surfing down at Rat Beach one day on it, and who comes paddling up to me but Nat Young? And I think this crowd is old enough to know the real Nat Young from Australia, not the new Nat Young. So Nat paddles up to me, and he says, "Hey, little girlie, you look like you're surfing in your bloomers." Apparently, my swimsuit looked like underwear. So people have asked me who have been my early influences. Well, growing up in the South Bay and Hermosa Beach, which are the epicenter of early surfing in California, there were many. There were surf shops lining Pacific Coast Highway. We had all of the legends here. We had Bing Copeland and Dewey Weber and Hap Jacobs and Ron Stoner of Rick's Surfboards, Greg Knoll. Who am I forgetting? Greg Knoll, Hap, Dewey, Stoner. Phil Becker. Yes, thank you. We had all of them here, and they were making beautiful boards. You drive down the street and just see these shiny, glossy, colorful surfboards that for a little surf-grom kid, that's like going by a candy store. So sometimes I had the opportunity to go in and look at the boards, meet them, meet other people that were working in their shops. I was inspired by them, inspired by the magazines that would have pictures of their team riders, pictures of them, and just really aspired to be like them. I would also occasionally see a picture of, again, legendary Joyce Hoffman in the magazines. and a young Margot Godfrey, then Margot Oberg, and see them surfing and thinking, they could do that. I want to do it. I want to be like them. So the magazines were very inspirational. And I was also asked about, well, whose style did you like? I loved Wayne Lynch from Australia. If anybody remembers him, what a carver. What a cool finesse surfer. And of course there was always Jerry Lopez, Reno Albalera, great carving, speed style. Our very own Jeff Hackman from the South Bay, who's part of the Haggerty Surf Club. So they were all legends that I admired from afar. But there were also some people here in the South Bay that I really had warm feelings for. There were so many good surfers. South Bay was and is still loaded with great surfers. And I had the opportunity to surf with them, and they definitely inspired my surfing. But there are a couple people I'd like to mention. One is our legendary South Bay shaper, John Lessing, a.k.a. Jeeps. Okay? What a nice man. He shaped my first board, and I wasn't quite old enough to drive, so he came over to my house, got permission from my mother to pick me up and drive me to his shaping room, and we went in there, and it turned into absolute performance art. If you know John, you know how enthusiastic he is about every board he makes. And he'd be saying to me, hey, Candy, what do you think if we draw the tail in a little bit? Maybe we give the nose a little more fullness up here. We'll thin out the rails. And what do you think about the V? And what an education I got from him. So that was great. And there's someone else that I remember early on, that I would call a true soul surfer. Whenever there was even a hint of waves, he was there. And he knew a lot about the surf and the conditions, and was always so friendly to everyone. And that is our very own Richard Safferty. Yeah! Also affectionately known as Saf. Saf has been a friend to all. I think everyone in the South Bay knows him. He is a self-appointed surfing historian, and I consider him a sage, wise surfer. Thank you, Saf. The early 70s were a very exciting time to be a surfer. As you know, all of you, I think, went through that transition. The equipment was changing rapidly, and so was the surf style. And as Patty mentioned about my commercial with RCA Color Television, George Greeno, who filmed the commercial, had a lot to do with that. So if you ever get a chance, you don't know who he is, Google George Greeno. You'll learn a lot about the shortboard evolution and how he changed the equipment and how we surf. So not only was it the equipment that was changing, a big highlight for me was getting my driver's license. And I was up and down the coast, everywhere I could go, anytime I had free time to surf. Northern California, Southern California, Baja, started going to Hawaii. Life was one big surf trip when I wasn't in school. I also loved going to the surf movies. I'm sure some of you here went to the Pier Avenue Auditorium to see maybe, Pacific Vibrations, 5 Summer Stories. Weren't those great times? Boy, so much exuberance and excitement in the air. We were all a bunch of surf-stoked kids. And a theme of all these movies, and also in the magazines, was the discovery of new and far-flung surf spots, going around the globe to find uncharted waters where you could get good waves to yourself. And I think the movies inspired quite a few people to do exactly that. I started traveling for surfing in the 70s, and in the late 70s I went to Tahiti, and I went to a little island called Huahine, if anybody's heard of that. It's a beautiful Polynesian South Pacific island. I haven't been there in years, but it was untouched. There weren't very many people there, and I'll tell you, there wasn't a lot of food there either. I was starving the whole time I was there. And in fact, that's the first place I ever met a cockroach that could fly. So anyway, I was there. I had surfed with a friend of mine who had actually turned me on to Huahine. I surfed with him one day, and then the next day I got up and I thought, I'm going out. I don't want to wait. So I got up in the morning and we surfed this spot called Fiti, and it breaks really far out. It breaks out in the channel off the reef pass, and there's a way to get out there. Now I think they take boats. Then we would walk along the reef, I don't know for how long. Then we'd get in the water and start paddling. Do you know how far it is out there to get? I've heard it's like 2.5 miles. It is way out there. So I've done the reef walk, I'm paddling in the water, and I see this little blonde head bobbing up and down out there. Thinking, okay, well at least I won't be out there alone. And I keep paddling, and I get up closer and closer, and I look at him. I said, Jim McComb, what are you doing here? So if anybody here knows Jim McComb, I used to surf with him in junior high at Torrance Beach and Haggerty's. So if you're wondering whatever happened to Jim McComb, he moved to Tahiti. He had 10 children, and I think he's still there. I had the same sort of experience the second time I went to Fiji, and I went to Tavarua. They had just opened the camp in 1984. I went with South Bay surfer Troy Haley, if you know him. So I just kind of went along. Troy goes, yeah, I'm going to this new surf place, Great Lefts. You want to go? I said, okay. So I went along. You do the long flight. They pick you up at the airport. They drive you to this little bay where it's all sandy. You get in these skiffs, these open 20-foot skiffs. They take you out to the island, this beautiful heart-shaped island. Get off the island, walked up to this building that wasn't impressive at all, called the restaurant. And I walk in, I see this guy, Dave Clark. What are you doing here? I used to surf with Dave at the ranch and in Santa Barbara, Salt Creek in the summertime. He said, oh, hi, Candy. Yeah, I'm one of the owners, Scott Funk and I.
Yeah.
So that's how surfing was. It was a small world. It was a small group of us that would cross paths and always so happy to see each other. And as far as my surfing itself goes, I want to just let you know that for years, it didn't matter where I surfed. I was typically the only girl in the water. It was often competitive out there because I would surf spots that had a tighter lineup, like a reef break or a point break. The waves were good, and you really had to scramble to get a wave. I learned quickly that if I wanted the best waves, I couldn't just sit around. I had to be on my game. So I became a strong paddler, and I wasn't afraid to take off farther back or take off on a wave that looked like maybe somebody wasn't going to make it. And it worked out pretty well most of the time. Once in a while, a few of the guys would get riled out there because they weren't used to surfing with a girl, or they weren't used to surfing with a girl that knew how to surf. I found that I had to prove myself, and once I did with them, I usually got accepted to some degree. Don't get me wrong, I still had to hustle. And what I've realized by writing this speech and thinking about this is that the guys, some of you that are out there now, you guys pushed me. And not on purpose. You didn't realize you were pushing me, but you did because it made me push myself. And for that, it made me a better surfer because I wanted to be the best I could be. So I actually really thank you for that. I appreciate it. In the mid-70s, the late John Broff and I, he was my boyfriend, we moved with several high school friends up to Santa Barbara. John and I opened up a ceramic studio, and John would shape our surfboards, and he and I would blast them. That was pretty funny. We were really into doing splash jobs. It's kind of that psychedelic era. We surfed together for years. He was so much fun, a very innovative guy, a great surfer, and he gave me the confidence and the courage to ride bigger waves. It only backfired on him once when he took me out at windmills on Maui. After I just got off the plane, I had a twin fin, and I didn't realize how big it was out there. If any of you know windmills, it is a powerful left. I got out there, got a couple of waves, said, I am out of here, and then I couldn't get in because there's so much suctioning back out and then slamming on these big lava rocks. That was the only time I've cried out in the water, and probably the only time I really yelled at John out there. Also, lots happening in the 70s. Around the mid-70s, there was a groundswell movement happening in women's competitive surfing. A small group of female surfers left the Western Surfing Association to establish a women's surfing competitive circuit. They called themselves the Women's International Surfing Association. Also known as WISA. WISA was founded by Mary Setterholm, who is an honorary member of the Hermosa Beach Walk of Surfers Association, Walk of Fame. Mary Lou Drummy, last year's inductee, Mary Lou Drummy. Yay! Jericho Poplar. Terry Esselin, she's not with us today, but here in spirit. Shannon Aikman. And a handful of other dedicated Southern California women. They had it so together that they were able to put their first international professional surfing contest together the same year they were founded. And they had the event at Malibu, of all places. And I think John Baker was there clearing the water for us. Thank you very much, John. And that contest was won by Margot Oberg. I joined WISA in 1976, the following year, and I am so glad that I did. I met so many wonderful, or should I say Wonder Women, not just from California, but from the Gulf Coast, the East Coast, and Hawaii, who are still my lifelong friends. I also met the Irwins. Jim Irwin, who would announce our contest with so much energy and enthusiasm. He would make it sound like we were surfing pipeline, when in reality we were surfing 2-foot slop.
Right.
And then, of course, his beautiful wife, Liz Irwin, who always had a flower behind her ear, that beautiful black, long, wavy hair, tan skin. She had the true aloha spirit, was a champion hula dancer. Liz was the mom to all of us on the beach. She took great care of us. So together they were a wonderful team, a beautiful team, and I thank you for that. And of course, their surf-stoked Charger daughter, Wendy Irwin. She wasn't afraid of anything. Wendy's here with us today, too. Now, so really fun times. And as WISA gained recognition, things started heating up for the women. Women were really garnering a lot of attention in the public eye, not just in the contest realm, but for surfing in general. In 19 1977, I was asked to join a small group of female surfers from different locales to represent the sport as a PR and marketing entity called the California Golden Girls, comprised of Jericho Poplar and Shannon Aikman, who came up with the idea, myself, Lisa Tom, who is here with us today, Brenda Scott, and Betty DiPolito. Early on, Bob and Bill Maestrel and of Dive and Surf wetsuits and body gloves saw the potential of this untapped demographic. They provided us with custom wetsuits and featured us in their ad campaigns. And their wetsuits were fabulous. They were designed to fit female bodies, and they were attractive, and they were warm. We loved wearing them. So I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the Maestrels, the senior Maestrels, but also to their sons, Robbie, Randy, Billy, Ronnie, and to Scott Daley for seeing our potential and supporting female surfers. Thank you. Today, the California Golden Girls have earned a solid place in the history of women surfing. We are often invited to participate in fundraising events and surf in celebrity surf contest heats, make appearances, and represent and support women surfing. In 2016, we presented the XXL Big Wave Award to female surfer Paige Olms at the Grove in Anaheim. That was a big venue to get in front of all those people. Anyway, just to give you some perspective on this, she got the award for an outstanding performance on a 60-foot wave at Jaws. Now, as Patty mentioned to you about my commercial, a couple of commercials I did with RCA Color Television for their new color track technology. And she mentioned if any of you saw the 1981 World Series, Dodgers versus the Yankees, who won? The Dodgers. Okay? They showed the commercial over and over and over again. It was a girl in a blue suit on a blue surfboard in the blue Hawaiian surf. Thank you. It was a lot of fun filming that. We went to the North Shore of Hawaii. We filmed it at Turtle Bay, part of it at Turtle Bay, the other part over on the southwest side at Miley Point, a left that breaks really far out. We had a commercial film crew. We had people from Chicago. We had the director, Andre, who was from France, and he knew nothing about surfing. And we had all sorts of people there that were very serious and concerned about getting this just right. It turned out to be George and myself getting the final footage. George was super innovative. He rode a surf mat out in the water and had a giant camera water housing that he built and put his camera in it. And we went out into the middle of the bay at Turtle Bay at some obscure reef. It was windy and choppy and partially blowing offshore, and I'm dropping in on these steep waves on my little twin fin. I've never had twin fins since. Skittering down these waves, but it was a fabulous experience. And then he came up with the idea of filming part of the commercial with the camera looking back at me, okay? So George built a water housing, and he made it as light and small as possible. But remember, this was not the digital age. This was film. So George put a film camera inside the housing, mounted it to the front of my board. I think it weighed 6 or 7 pounds. And my role was to paddle and catch the wave. As soon as I felt the momentum, I had to shimmy to the front of the board because it was a different board. It was bigger. I had to press the button, jump to my feet, ride the wave, try and not fall off because the board was so tippy, so kick out or fall, and then immediately I had to grab that thing, push the button to turn it off again. George made it very clear to me that we would run out of film. And if we ran out of film, we would have to paddle back into the beach. No jet skis back then. So that was a lot of work, but super, super fun. So just a little bit about, life has continued to be a fabulous journey that I'm still on, that revolves around surfing. But in the late 70s and into the 80s, I was busy with college. I was going to Cal State University, Long Beach, getting my degree in physical therapy, and that has become my profession, which I've kind of segued out into other things as well. I still continue to travel through the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, went to Tahiti a few times more. Whenever I had a break from school. I had quite the adventure in 1992 when I got caught in Hurricane Iniki on Kauai. Wind gusts of up to 200 miles an hour. We were stranded on the island for 3 days. The place was demolished. All the infrastructure, everything was down. But the silver lining, there were two silver linings. One, the people of Kauai were so incredibly gracious and kind. They took care of all of us. In the face of their disaster, they made sure we were fed, we were warm, we had drinking water, and as soon as the airport was capable of flying, they got us out of there. The other silver lining is the day before the hurricane, we served incredible pacalas. Some of the best laughs I've ever served.
I don't know too much about, but all I know is
So to kind of wrap things up, I just want to acknowledge a few more people. In addition to Body Glove, they were fabulous sponsors. Also, Horizons West, Nathan Pratt. Woo! Yes. Infinity Surfboards, Steve Bainey, and at the time Terry Sennett was shaping my boards. Industry support, particularly I would say Surfer Magazine was the big one, with Jim Kempton and Steve Pesman really then and now supporting women surfers. Thank you so much. There were also three surfing photographers that I feel need a lot of credit, because nobody really wanted to buy pictures of women surfing back then. So the late Steve Sakamoto, if anybody knows of Steve, he took great pictures of us. Guy Motil, also very dedicated to the girls. And South Bay's Jim Rusi, who has really been making a successful living off of photographing the female surfers and doing a beautiful job of it. He and I went to high school together, right? We went to high school with him. I also want to give a big shout out to Lonnie Argabright and all of the great members of the Haggerty's Surf Club. I was inducted as an honorary member in 2016, and I am so proud to be part of this group as their first female professional surfer. I have never met a nicer bunch of guys. And not only that, they are very, very accomplished professional surfers, amateur contest surfers, board builders, artists, everything that you can imagine. We've got an artist in there, John Hammersfeld, that designed the Endless Summer poster and artwork. Another artist is Rick Griffin Murphy and all the psychedelic awesome art he did. So it's a wonderful club, and like I said, I am so proud to be a member. A couple more things I want to say. appreciate your patience. There are some excellent female surfers in the South Bay, and some I surfed with many years ago, and some I have surfed with more recently. And I just want to give them a shout out because they deserve recognition. Debbie Hull. Debbie started surfing before I did. She was kind of like the leader. Vicki Merrill. Vicky's a great goofy foot. We surf together a lot and go on surf trips together. Sue Dell, a charger out in the water. She doesn't let a wave go by. Tara Larkins, another good goofy foot. Lori Wilson, that girl is such a great nose rider. Pauline Carbonell, also another great nose rider, good longboard surfer. Wendy Irwin Gilly, she's awesome, fearless. Holly Beck, really good surfer. She was on the pro circuit for a little while. And I'm sorry she's not here, but I just love this gal.
Holly Beck.
Our very own Liz Benavides. Okay, we had a nickname for her. We'd call her Liz Brutal Vitas because she was so tough and brutal. So in closing, surfing has always been a centerpiece of my life that has brought me so much joy, so much adventure, wonderful friendships, and exposed me to a lot of different cultures around the world. And I have to admit, I kind of forgot about this, but I never thought of surfing as a sport, ever. I always thought of surfing as a lifestyle. And in the last few years, what I've been hearing more and more from mostly younger women, when I tell them about my surfing background, they keep coming up with the same name for me. They keep coming up with the same name for me. They call me a badass. And when I first heard that, I thought, what? A badass? I'm just doing what I love. But you know, I've heard it several times now, and I'm taking it. I'm a badass. Also, when I was much younger, I would hear another thing. Some guys, after I'd been surfing, they'd come up to me and say, wow, you surf good for a girl. That didn't sit so well. But now there's so many great female surfers. In fact, some will be surfing in the Olympics in 2020, along with their male counterparts. And I wish them all the gold and silver and bronze that they can fit in their board bags to bring home. And if anyone ever says to me again, you surf good for a girl, I consider that a huge compliment because I am proud to surf like a girl. Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks. We're going to wrap this up real quick. Mayor Jeff Duklos will come up to the stage and present the plaques, and we'll be concluding the program with some words from Jani.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. On behalf of the City of Hermosa Beach, my colleagues, the City Council, it's my honor to present these plaques to the three people enshrined today. First up would be Kip Jerger. Kip. You can just remain on the stage. Next up would be Scott Daley. Scott. Also, I'd like to call call the stage to join me our Assembly member for the 66th District, Albert Tucci, who I have to say, only a few weeks ago on the pierhead here, announced his bill is now before the Assembly to make surfing the official sport of the state of California.
All right, quick speech. Good afternoon, Hermosa Beach. Yeah. The original Surf City. Yeah. You know, Mayor Duklos is telling me about how this is a gathering of the who's who of the South Bay surfing community, the surfing culture, and so I'm all stoked about being here to be joining all of you. And congratulations to Kip, Candy, and Scott for the recognition to join the Surfers Hall of Fame, the Walk of Fame.